Lead yourself first. Success will follow. This brief guide transforms daily discipline into lasting influence. The video presents 10 chapters that walk you through discipline, emotional mastery, habit design, values, mindset, routines, boundaries, responsibility, purpose, and elevating self to lead others. Expect practical routines, stoic clarity, and step-by-step practices you can apply immediately to gain momentum and confidence. Designed for busy leaders balancing ambition and life, this roadmap respects limited time. Subscribe to Audiobook Tone for weekly audiobook-style lessons, concise exercises, and a focused community that keeps you accountable. Join now to turn small daily choices into extraordinary results today. Number 1. Build daily discipline before leadership. Success is not something that happens by chance. It is not a random alignment of circumstances or the luck of being in the right place at the right time. True success begins within, long before it becomes visible to the outside world. The foundation of every great achievement, the silent engine behind leaders who inspire and influence, is daily discipline. Leadership is not about commanding others. It is about mastering oneself first. Without personal discipline, any attempt to lead others will be shaky, inconsistent, and hollow. Discipline is the bridge between intention and accomplishment, the quiet force that transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results. Discipline is often misunderstood as rigid control or punishment. In reality, it is freedom, the freedom to choose your actions consciously rather than being ruled by fleeting impulses, distractions, or laziness. Discipline is the ability to do what needs to be done, even when it is uncomfortable, inconvenient, or tiring. It is the deliberate choice to prioritize long-term growth over short-term pleasure. Building daily discipline means creating a structure for your life, establishing routines that reinforce your values, and developing habits that propel you forward consistently. The first step is understanding that discipline is not a single heroic act. It is the sum of small, intentional actions repeated day after day. Start by examining your daily habits. What does a typical day look like? Most people live reactively, responding to emails, messages, or the whims of others, without a clear plan or priority. This reactionary approach fragments focus, drains energy, and prevents meaningful progress. To build discipline, begin by taking control of your mornings. How you start the day sets the tone for everything that follows. Wake up with intention, not obligation. Even simple actions, making your bed, stretching, drinking water, writing a brief plan for the day, can cultivate a sense of order and control. These small acts signal to your mind that you are capable of directing your life, that your choices are purposeful, and that you are not at the mercy of chaos. Consistency is the heartbeat of discipline. Doing something once or sporadically will never build the strength you need to lead yourself. True discipline is forged through repetition. Set clear, achievable goals for your daily routines and stick to them. If your goal is to exercise, commit to a fixed time every day. No excuses. If your goal is to improve your skills or knowledge, dedicate a specific block of time to learn. Consistency does not mean rigidity or perfection. It means showing up again and again, even when motivation fades or obstacles appear. Motivation is fleeting, but discipline carries you through when energy and enthusiasm are absent. Understanding your why is essential to sustaining discipline. Discipline without purpose quickly becomes a chore, a tiresome sequence of obligations that feels heavy and pointless. Ask yourself why each habit, each task, each action matters. Connect it to a larger vision of who you want to become. Why do you want to wake up early, exercise, read, or write? Because each of these actions is a building block of the person you aspire to be. The clarity of your purpose fuels perseverance. It transforms discipline from mere obligation into a deliberate act of self-respect and empowerment. Every moment of discipline becomes a vote for the life you desire, a tangible demonstration of your commitment to yourself. It is also important to recognize that discipline is not about denying yourself enjoyment. It is about choosing wisely, balancing immediate gratification with long-term gain. For example, resisting the temptation to scroll mindlessly on social media for an hour in the morning is not deprivation. It is creating space for activities that truly matter. Replacing distraction with focused action is liberating. The brain thrives on structure, and disciplined habits create an environment where creativity, productivity, and mental clarity flourish. Over time, what once felt restrictive becomes natural, even enjoyable, because your life is aligned with your values and intention. Building daily discipline requires confronting discomfort. Growth and comfort do not coexist. Every act of discipline involves a choice to face resistance, delay gratification, and endure temporary discomfort for a greater reward. This might mean waking up before the sun, completing a task when you would rather rest, or making a tough decision that others avoid. Discomfort is the forge in which resilience is created. Anytime you choose discipline over ease, you strengthen your capacity to lead yourself. This self-mastery spills over into every area of life. When you can navigate your own impulses and habits, the external challenges of work, relationships, and opportunities become manageable, even predictable. Practical strategies make daily discipline achievable. Start with one core habit. Focus on one small, meaningful action each day that aligns with your values. Track it, review it, adjust it. The act of monitoring progress transforms abstract intentions into concrete accountability. Structure your environment to support your discipline. Remove distractions, simplify decisions, and surround yourself with cues that reinforce your habits. Make it easier to do the right thing and harder to do the wrong thing. Over time, these intentional choices compound into an unshakable routine, a framework for success that requires less mental effort and more automatic execution. Another crucial element is self-compassion. Discipline is not perfection. There will be days when you fall short, when distractions win, when fatigue or frustration overwhelms you. The difference between failure and stagnation is how you respond. A disciplined mindset embraces mistakes as opportunities to learn, not as reasons to quit. Analyze what went wrong, adjust your approach, and resume your habits without guilt. Each day is a new chance to exercise self-mastery. The commitment to daily discipline is not about never failing. It is about never giving up. Building daily discipline is also deeply tied to time management. Every minute wasted is a lost opportunity to strengthen your self-leadership. Prioritize tasks that matter most. Eliminate or delegate what does not, and respect the finite nature of your energy. Treat your schedule as a reflection of your values. When your actions reflect intention rather than reaction, you create momentum that propels every other aspect of life. Leadership, influence, and success are byproducts of this momentum. People follow those who are consistent, reliable, and capable of controlling themselves. By mastering daily discipline, you naturally earn the trust and respect of others, creating the conditions to lead with integrity. Ultimately, building daily discipline before leadership is about reclaiming ownership of your life. It is about waking up each day with clarity, acting with purpose, and moving steadily toward the life you envision. It is about quiet victories, the small choices that accumulate into profound transformation. The disciplined person is not swayed by every whim, not controlled by fleeting emotions, and not defined by circumstance. They are the captains of their ship, steering with deliberate effort through calm and storm alike. Leadership begins with this internal mastery. No one else can lead you effectively until you can lead yourself. Start today. Identify one area of your life where discipline is lacking. Commit to one small, consistent action that aligns with your highest goals. Track your progress. Protect your time. Embrace discomfort. Reconnect daily with your why. In doing so, you are not just building a habit, you are building yourself. You are preparing to step into leadership with a foundation that cannot be shaken. Discipline is not a chore, it is a declaration you are in charge of your life, and you will not allow circumstance, impulse, or indecision to dictate your path. This is the first step on the journey to influence, impact, and ultimate success. The act of building daily discipline is transformative. It strengthens character, sharpens focus, and cultivates resilience. Over time, it rewires your mind to value action over hesitation, courage over comfort, and consistency over chaos. Leadership becomes a natural extension of your disciplined life. Others will notice, not because of force or authority, but because your habits, integrity, and self-mastery radiate silently and powerfully. The life of a leader begins in the small, repeated choices of daily discipline. Every day you invest in mastering yourself is a day you are closer to the success, fulfillment, and influence you desire. Discipline is the quiet power that precedes leadership. Without it, ambition is scattered, potential wasted, and influence fleeting. With it, even the loftiest goals become attainable. The journey of building daily discipline is challenging, but every step strengthens the mind, sharpens the will, and aligns action with purpose. Step by step, day by day, choice by choice, discipline transforms ordinary people into extraordinary leaders. Success follows naturally when self-leadership is cultivated first, and daily discipline is the path to achieving it. Number 2, master emotions to guide actions. Emotions are powerful. They shape decisions, influence behavior, and subtly steer the direction of our lives. Yet, most people live as if emotions are uncontrollable forces, letting fear, anger, impatience, or excitement dictate their choices. The truth is that emotions are not enemies. They are signals. They provide information about what matters to us, where boundaries lie, and where attention is needed. Mastery over emotions does not mean suppressing them or pretending they do not exist. It means understanding them, responding to them with intention, and channeling their energy to produce constructive action. The ability to guide your actions through emotional mastery is a cornerstone of self-leadership and personal success. Every emotional reaction begins in the mind and body before it manifests externally. Anger flares in the chest, anxiety tightens the stomach, and excitement pulses through the veins. These physiological responses are natural, but they do not have to dictate outcomes. The first step toward mastery is awareness. Observing emotions as they arise without judgment creates a space between stimulus and response. In that space lies choice. If a stressful email triggers frustration, if a sudden setback provokes fear, if criticism sparks defensiveness, pause, breathe, name the feeling. Recognize it as a temporary state rather than an immutable fact. Awareness transforms emotion from a runaway force into a navigable current. Emotional mastery begins with honest self-reflection. Identify patterns in your emotional responses. Notice what situations provoke impatience, resentment, or self-doubt. Record them, if needed, in a journal, and explore the underlying triggers. Often emotions are reactions to unmet expectations, perceived threats, or unresolved past experiences. By pinpointing these triggers, you gain the insight necessary to preempt destructive responses. This self-awareness is not indulgence, it is preparation. It allows you to anticipate challenges, strengthen control, and align reactions with long-term goals rather than short-term impulses. Regulating emotions also relies on reframing thoughts. The mind and emotions are intertwined. How you interpret a situation shapes how you feel. Fear can become focus, anger can become determination, and disappointment can transform into motivation. Shifting perspective does not ignore reality. It chooses a lens that empowers rather than paralyzes. For instance, if a project fails, you can see it as proof of inadequacy, or you can view it as a lesson in resilience and strategy. The emotional energy tied to failure is inevitable, but how it is applied, whether it builds or destroys, depends entirely on your conscious interpretation. Physical practices support emotional mastery. The body and mind are inseparable. Exercise, proper nutrition, adequate sleep, and controlled breathing significantly influence emotional regulation. A tense body fuels stress and impatience, while a relaxed, strong body promotes clarity and composure. Daily routines that include movement, stretching, or mindful breathing act as emotional stabilizers. When emotions surge, taking a few deep, measured breaths can interrupt impulsive reactions. Simple physical habits create a foundation of resilience, ensuring that emotional energy is directed rather than dissipated. Discipline of the mind is equally critical. Emotional mastery requires a consistent practice of self-inquiry, reflection, and mental training. Meditation, journaling, or deliberate quiet time helps cultivate inner calm, allowing rational thinking to coexist with emotional awareness. These practices do not suppress emotion. They enhance the ability to choose how to act in the presence of it. Over time, this strengthens emotional intelligence, the skill of understanding not only your feelings but also those of others. Emotional intelligence enables better decision-making, smoother relationships, and the capacity to lead with empathy while remaining anchored in personal principles. The relationship between emotion and action is immediate and undeniable. Decisions made in emotional turbulence often produce regret. Decisions made with deliberate awareness, even in the presence of strong feelings, yield consistent progress. This requires patience and repeated practice. Start with small, controlled exercises. When irritation arises, pause for 10 seconds before responding. When anxiety emerges, acknowledge it aloud, and then define a constructive next step. These deliberate interventions train the mind to respond rather than react, gradually creating a habit of thoughtful action, rooted in clarity. Another vital component is embracing vulnerability. Emotional mastery is not about detachment or stoicism in the sense of suppression. It is about courage, the courage to feel deeply without losing control. Accepting vulnerability strengthens resilience, builds authenticity, and enhances influence. When leaders display calm composure under pressure, it is not because they are unaffected by emotions. It is because they understand the forces within and direct them with intention. This same principle applies in personal life. Controlling emotion does not mean numbing it. It means harnessing it to serve your goals rather than sabotage them. Communication plays a crucial role in translating emotional mastery into action. Expressing emotions appropriately, with clarity and restraint, strengthens relationships and reduces conflict. Emotional intelligence involves not only internal regulation, but also the skill of conveying feelings in a way that informs and inspires rather than provokes or alienates. Choosing words carefully, listening actively, and responding calmly in tense situations reinforces personal authority and fosters trust. Mastering emotions is therefore not a solitary endeavor. It extends outward, influencing interactions and shaping the environment around you. Practical strategies make emotional mastery tangible. Begin by identifying triggers and noting recurring emotional patterns. Create a daily reflection practice, reviewing instances where emotions influence decisions, whether positively or negatively. Develop a set of calming techniques, deep breathing, short walks, or mental reframing exercises to employ when strong emotions arise. Surround yourself with reminders of purpose and perspective to redirect emotional energy toward meaningful action. Gradually, these practices integrate into daily life, transforming automatic reactions into conscious, deliberate responses that align with long-term objectives. Patience is indispensable. Emotional mastery is not immediate. It is cultivated over time through repeated self-awareness, trial, and adjustment. Some days will feel like setbacks, moments where emotions overwhelm intentions. These moments are part of the learning curve. Observing them without judgment and recommitting to practice strengthens resilience. Mastery does not imply perfection. It signifies progress, consistency, and the ability to guide behavior toward chosen outcomes despite internal turbulence. Ultimately, mastering emotions is a form of freedom. When emotions are understood and directed, they become allies rather than obstacles. Fear becomes a signal to prepare, not a reason to retreat. Frustration becomes a compass toward solutions. Joy and satisfaction are amplified because they are experienced without the distortion of uncontrolled impulses. Emotional mastery allows life to be navigated with clarity, precision, and intentionality. It creates a state where actions are not dictated by fleeting moods, but guided by conscious choice, aligning with values, purpose, and long-term goals. Mastery over emotions directly influences every dimension of leadership and personal achievement. People naturally gravitate toward calm, composed, and resilient individuals. By controlling emotional responses, you command attention, earn respect, and cultivate trust. Your actions, not merely words, demonstrate the consistency and reliability that inspire confidence. Leadership, influence, and impact emerge naturally when emotional energy is harnessed effectively. Begin today by observing emotional patterns without criticism. Track your responses to everyday events. Practice deliberate breathing, reflection, and perspective shifts. Apply small, consistent interventions to redirect emotional energy into productive action. Over time, this develops a reliable internal compass capable of guiding choices, decisions, and actions under any circumstance. Emotional mastery is the silent strength of every person who achieves sustained success, and the ability to act with clarity and intention in the presence of strong feelings is the mark of those who lead themselves first. Mastering emotions is not optional, it is essential. Life presents constant challenges, unplanned events, and interactions that can trigger intense feelings. The difference between being swept away by circumstance and remaining steadfast lies in the ability to guide emotions instead of being guided by them. Every moment spent observing, understanding, and channeling emotion builds a foundation for consistent, purposeful action. When this foundation is strong, influence, leadership, and success follow naturally. The life of self-mastery begins with the conscious choice to transform emotional energy into deliberate, productive action, shaping not only what is done, but who you become in the process. Number 3, craft habits that shape identity. Every person is a collection of repeated actions. The choices we make daily, often unnoticed, quietly define who we are, what we believe, and ultimately what we achieve. Identity is not an abstract concept. It is the sum of your habits. Habits are the invisible architecture of character. They reinforce values, create patterns of behavior, and build the framework for success. To shape the life you want, you must intentionally craft habits that align with the person you aspire to become. This is not about temporary motivation or bursts of effort. It is about consistent, deliberate action that slowly transforms your identity from the inside out. Habits are powerful because they bypass conscious thought. Once established, they operate automatically, conserving mental energy while producing predictable outcomes. This is both a blessing and a challenge. Good habits reinforce your goals, while destructive habits quietly undermine them. The process of shaping identity begins with recognition. Observe your routines carefully. Notice the decisions that happen without thought, the automatic behaviors that define your day. Are they moving you closer to your vision or holding you back? Awareness of these patterns is the first step toward intentional transformation. The creation of meaningful habits starts small. Attempting to overhaul your life in a single moment is a recipe for frustration. Instead, focus on micro actions that are achievable and repeatable. 1 minute of focused planning, a 5-minute exercise routine, reading a single page daily. These tiny steps are deceptively powerful. When repeated consistently, they compound over time, reinforcing a sense of capability and identity aligned with growth. Small victories matter because they wire the mind to expect progress, instill confidence, and reduce resistance. Identity is shaped not by dramatic gestures, but by repeated, deliberate choices. Consistency is the engine that drives habit formation. Each action is like a brick, contributing to the building of character. Missing a day is not catastrophic, but habitual inconsistency will prevent transformation. Therefore, anchor habits to reliable triggers. Link them to existing routines. After brushing teeth, meditate. After lunch, take a walk. Upon waking, journal. These anchors make habit execution easier by reducing reliance on willpower alone. Willpower is finite. Structure and context are infinite. By designing your environment to favor desired behaviors, you increase the likelihood that your habits will endure and shape your identity effectively. Intentionality is key. Not every habit contributes equally to your growth. Select habits that reflect the values and qualities you wish to embody. If you want to be disciplined, practice punctuality and follow through. If creativity is your goal, dedicate time daily to generate ideas or engage in artistic activity. If resilience is essential, deliberately place yourself in controlled challenges to develop adaptability. Every habit should be a reflection of your desired self, reinforcing the narrative of who you are. Identity grows organically when actions consistently mirror intention. The emotional component of habit formation is significant. Actions tied to positive feelings are more likely to persist. Celebrate small wins, notice progress, and acknowledge effort. This does not mean indulging in self-congratulation, but recognizing that effort matters. Positive reinforcement strengthens neural pathways associated with the habit, making the action easier to repeat. Similarly, Connecting habits to a sense of purpose enhances longevity. When the habit serves a larger goal, such as health, personal growth, or contribution to others, it gains meaning beyond the action itself. Habits also shape perception, both self-perception and how others see you. When you consistently act in alignment with integrity, punctuality, or generosity, these traits become identifiable parts of your identity. People begin to trust, respect, and rely on you because your habits communicate reliability. Likewise, your own perception shifts. When you consistently follow through on commitments, you begin to see yourself as disciplined. When you consistently engage in learning, you begin to see yourself as knowledgeable. Identity and habit are in a reciprocal relationship. The habits you cultivate shape how you view yourself, and your self-perception reinforces continued action. Breaking destructive habits is equally essential. Old patterns that contradict your desired identity must be addressed with the same deliberate intention as forming new ones. Identify behaviors that create friction, waste time, or weaken character. Replace them with actions that reinforce your goals. For instance, replace reactive complaining with constructive problem solving, impulsive spending with mindful financial planning, or procrastination with structured time blocks. Habit replacement is more effective than suppression alone because it redirects energy rather than leaving a void for old tendencies to resurface. Environment and social influence play a significant role in habit formation. Surround yourself with conditions that reinforce desired behavior. Remove temptations that trigger negative habits. Spend time with people whose habits and values align with your own aspirations. The influence of peers and surroundings is subtle yet profound. By curating your environment, you create a supportive ecosystem that makes disciplined, growth-oriented actions easier and more automatic. Identity is not built in isolation. It is shaped by context, relationships, and external cues as much as by internal decisions. Tracking progress is a powerful tool in habit development. Recording actions, noting successes, and reflecting on outcomes reinforce commitment and accountability. This practice creates tangible evidence of growth, which strengthens self-belief and motivation. Over time, patterns become visible, revealing which habits truly define and elevate your identity. Reflection also enables adjustment. Habits that no longer serve your goals can be refined or replaced. This iterative process ensures that your daily actions remain aligned with your evolving vision of self. Habits that shape identity require patience. Transformation is rarely immediate. It is a gradual accumulation of intentional actions. Persistence, rather than intensity, determines the outcome. Each day contributes a small, measurable piece to the mosaic of character. The most successful people are not those who occasionally take heroic actions, but those who show up consistently, perform small tasks with excellence, and allow those tasks to define their identity over time. Consistency compounds, shaping both self-perception and the external reality of achievement. The ultimate goal is integration. Habits are not separate from life. They are the mechanisms through which identity is expressed. When habits become automatic, they cease to be burdens and instead become an extension of self. The person who reads daily, exercises regularly, manages time effectively, and practices reflection does not simply perform these actions. They embody them. Identity and habit converge, creating a life where character drives behavior naturally. At this point, self-leadership is no longer a struggle. It is the default operating mode. Begin immediately by identifying one core habit that reflects the person you want to be. Commit to it daily, anchor it to existing routines, and protect it from distraction. Monitor progress, celebrate consistency, and adjust as necessary. Gradually expand to additional habits, building a network of behaviors that collectively define your identity. Remember that small, deliberate actions performed consistently will, over time, shape your character and influence every area of life. Crafting habits that shape identity is a form of intentional evolution. It empowers individuals to become the person they aspire to be, rather than drifting with circumstance or impulse. Habits are not merely tasks. They are declarations of self, statements of priorities, and tools of transformation. By deliberately choosing what to practice each day, You shape not only your current actions but also your enduring character. The life you live, the success you achieve, and the influence you wield are all reflections of the habits you cultivate and the identity they reinforce. Mastering habits is mastering life. By embedding meaningful, consistent actions into daily routines, the internal narrative transforms from a reactive, undirected individual to a person of intention, purpose, and authority over their own destiny. Identity, once fluid and reactive, solidifies into something strong, recognizable, and aligned with aspiration. Every habit, no matter how small, is a building block. With each repetition, a stronger, clearer, and more capable self emerges, ready to navigate challenges, seize opportunities, and lead both self and others with confidence. Number 4, prioritize values to drive choices. Life is a constant series of decisions, both large and small. Every day, choices shape our future, influence our relationships, and determine the trajectory of our personal and professional growth. Yet many people drift aimlessly, making decisions based on convenience, fleeting desire, or external pressure. This approach leaves life fragmented and unpredictable. To navigate life with purpose, clarity, and resilience, it is essential to anchor every choice in deeply held values. Values are the compass that guides action when the path is unclear. They are not mere words or ideals. They are the principles that define who you are and how you show up in the world. Prioritizing values ensures that decisions, no matter how small, consistently move you toward the person you aspire to be. The first step is identifying your core values. This is not a casual exercise or a checklist of aspirational traits. It requires reflection, honesty, and introspection. Values are not what you wish you cared about. They are what consistently influence your behavior when no one is watching. Courage, integrity, curiosity, discipline, compassion, or excellence might surface as defining principles, but each person's list is unique. Take time to consider moments in your life when you felt most fulfilled, proud, or aligned. What underlying principles guided your actions in those moments? These insights reveal the values that already shape your identity, waiting to be consciously prioritized. Once identified, values must inform decision-making at every level. Daily choices, from how you spend time to how you respond to challenges, should be filtered through the lens of what matters most to you. For example, if growth is a core value, decisions that encourage learning, skill development, or new experiences should take precedence over comfort or convenience. If integrity is central, choices must align with honesty and transparency, even when shortcuts or deceptive options appear easier. By actively using values as a decision filter, actions become deliberate rather than reactionary, producing consistency, credibility, and self-respect. Prioritizing values requires courage, especially in situations of conflict. Often, short-term pressures, societal expectations, or emotional impulses tempt you to act contrary to your principles. Choosing values over expedience is rarely the easiest path, but it is the one that builds character and trust. Acting consistently with values in difficult circumstances strengthens resilience and self-confidence. It eliminates internal conflict because decisions are guided by clarity rather than confusion. Over time, this creates an internal consistency that others notice, enhancing influence and reinforcing leadership grounded in authenticity. Values also shape how goals are pursued. Many people set ambitious goals, but fail to achieve them because the methods they employ conflict with their fundamental principles. Aligning actions with values ensures that success is sustainable and personally meaningful. Achievements earned without adherence to core principles feel hollow, while accomplishments rooted in integrity and purpose provide lasting fulfillment. For instance, prioritizing compassion might mean leading a team with empathy rather than authoritarian control, even if that path requires more patience and effort. Values act as a framework for making choices that honor your outcomes and the character you wish to cultivate. Clarity of values transforms uncertainty into opportunity. Life is unpredictable, filled with unexpected challenges and crossroads. Decisions in such moments can be paralyzing if there is no guiding framework. A well-defined set of values provides immediate reference points, simplifying decision-making. When faced with ambiguity, ask, Does this choice reflect who I am and what I believe? Does it serve the long-term vision of the person I want to become? This approach removes hesitation, minimizes regret, and ensures that action is purposeful, deliberate, and aligned with deeper priorities. Values influence habits, routines, and patterns of behavior. Every repeated action communicates what is important, even to yourself. If reliability is a core value, consistently showing up on time and meeting commitments reinforces that principle. If curiosity is a central value, dedicating time to learning each day strengthens intellectual growth. Over time, habits shaped by values become automatic, creating an identity anchored in integrity and intentionality. By allowing values to dictate the rhythm of daily life, decisions, actions, and priorities naturally align, reducing friction between desire and action. Decision-making becomes more straightforward when guided by values, but it also demands self-discipline and foresight. Impulse, distraction, and convenience constantly compete with long-term principles. The strength to prioritize values over immediate gratification grows through practice. Begin by evaluating one area of life, relationships, finances, career, or health, and intentionally make choices that reflect your most important values. Track results, observe emotional reactions, and refine strategies. This practice strengthens the ability to consistently act in alignment with principles, creating a pattern that eventually becomes second nature. Conflict between competing values is inevitable, and navigating these situations requires thoughtful prioritization. Not all principles carry equal weight in every context, and discerning which value should guide action in a given moment is part of the mastery process. This requires honest reflection, understanding consequences, and sometimes making difficult trade-offs. For example, a decision may challenge both loyalty and honesty. Evaluating which principle aligns with long-term character and purpose allows for decisions that are consistent with deeper identity, even if uncomfortable in the short term. Surrounding yourself with environments and relationships that support your values is essential. If you value growth, spend time with those who inspire learning. If you value discipline, cultivate systems and spaces that reduce temptation and encourage consistency. Peer influence, workplace culture, and social norms can either reinforce or undermine values. Being deliberate about context ensures that decisions aligned with principles are easier to maintain. The more your environment mirrors your values, the less energy is wasted resisting contrary pressures. Values provide the ultimate measure of accountability. When outcomes are uncertain, external validation is fleeting, and opinions vary, values act as an internal benchmark. Asking whether a choice reflects your principles provides clarity in moments of doubt. It reduces anxiety over judgment, comparison, or societal expectation, allowing decisions to be anchored in self-respect rather than external approval. This internal compass fosters confidence and decisiveness, qualities that are essential in leadership and personal fulfillment. Living according to values transforms life from reactive to intentional. Choices become deliberate expressions of character, rather than responses to circumstance. Over time, this consistency solidifies identity, builds trust with others, and creates momentum toward meaningful goals. Decisions, both large and small, carry weight because they are connected to something enduring rather than transient. This alignment between principle and action creates a life where success is not only measured by achievement, but also by the integrity and authenticity of the path taken. To begin prioritizing values, write them down and reflect on their meaning. Review recent decisions and evaluate whether they aligned with these principles. Identify areas of conflict and commit to adjustments that honor your values consistently. Establish practices, routines, and reminders that reinforce these principles daily. This conscious alignment cultivates a sense of purpose, reduces internal conflict, and builds the confidence necessary to act decisively, even under pressure. Prioritizing values is a lifelong practice. Challenges, opportunities, and circumstances will constantly test principles. Each decision provides a chance to reaffirm commitment to what matters most. By making values the guiding force, you develop resilience, integrity, and the ability to act with clarity in a chaotic world. Success, influence, and fulfillment follow naturally when every choice reflects the foundation of what you truly stand for. Living by your values is not simply an ethical choice. It is the blueprint for a meaningful, empowered, and intentional life. Number 5, strengthen mindset through consistent practice. The mind is the most influential tool we possess. It shapes perceptions, dictates decisions, and determines how challenges are approached. A strong mindset is not an inherited trait. It is cultivated through deliberate, consistent practice. Just as muscles grow stronger through repetition and resistance, the mind becomes resilient, focused, and adaptive when trained regularly. The ability to maintain clarity, optimism, and strategic thinking in the face of adversity is not accidental. It is the product of intentional mental exercise. Strengthening your mindset is not about avoiding difficulty. It is about preparing yourself to navigate it with skill, composure, and determination. A fortified mindset begins with understanding that thoughts are not always facts. Many people unconsciously accept every thought as truth, allowing fear, doubt, or negativity to dictate action. Developing mental strength requires cultivating awareness of these automatic patterns and creating the space to evaluate them critically. Observing thoughts without immediate reaction allows you to identify distortions, unproductive beliefs, or limiting narratives. Once recognized, these patterns can be consciously challenged and replaced with empowering perspectives that support growth, resilience, and purposeful action. Consistency is the cornerstone of mental training. The mind strengthens through repeated practice, not occasional effort. Small, intentional exercises performed daily create neural pathways that reinforce adaptive thinking. These exercises may include focused reflection, journaling, visualization, or deliberate problem solving. Each act of mental discipline is like laying bricks. Over time, these bricks form a strong structure, capable of withstanding stress, uncertainty, and distraction. The accumulation of small, deliberate practices is far more impactful than sporadic bursts of intense effort. Repetition alone is insufficient without clarity of purpose. Each mental practice must be intentional, directed toward building specific capacities such as patience, focus, resilience, or creativity. For example, reflecting daily on challenges faced and how they were addressed develops perspective and emotional regulation. Visualizing desired outcomes while considering realistic steps strengthens problem-solving and goal orientation. Mindset is not passive. It is shaped by active engagement, deliberate thought, and disciplined practice. The quality of mental exercises determines the durability and effectiveness of the resulting mindset. Challenges serve as natural opportunities to strengthen the mind. Adversity tests mental resilience and reveals areas that require growth. Instead of avoiding difficulty, approach it as a training ground. Every obstacle encountered is a chance to practice perseverance, strategic thinking, and emotional regulation. Responding to setbacks with calm analysis and intentional action develops confidence and reinforces the belief that difficulties are manageable rather than insurmountable. Over time, repeated exposure to controlled discomfort enhances the mind's capacity to remain steady under pressure. The inner dialogue we maintain significantly influences mindset. Words spoken internally carry weight, shaping perception and directing behavior. Replacing self-criticism, doubt, and negativity with constructive, empowering statements fosters resilience and promotes consistent effort. Affirmations, when tied to concrete actions, are more than platitudes. They reinforce commitment, maintain focus, and strengthen belief in one's ability to overcome challenges. Mindset develops through repeated reinforcement, not occasional encouragement, making every thought an opportunity to train mental strength. Discipline in daily routines supports mental fortitude. Consistent sleep, balanced nutrition, and physical activity directly affect cognitive performance and emotional stability. A well-maintained body provides the foundation for a resilient mind. Mental practice is most effective when paired with physical wellness. Stress diminishes, focus improves, and clarity of thought emerges. The mind and body function synergistically. Strength in one enhances the other. Establishing predictable routines reduces cognitive fatigue, allowing the mind to dedicate energy towards strategic thought, learning, and self-improvement. Focus is a critical component of mindset strength. The ability to concentrate on priorities without being derailed by distraction allows consistent progress toward meaningful objectives. Practicing sustained attention, limiting multitasking, and establishing deliberate periods of deep work train the mind to remain engaged. Each session of concentrated effort reinforces discipline, strengthens neural pathways associated with attention, and improves the ability to think clearly under pressure. Focused practice is a tangible investment in mental resilience that compounds over time. Perspective plays a central role in developing a powerful mindset. The same event can be interpreted in multiple ways, producing vastly different emotional and behavioral outcomes. Viewing challenges as opportunities, setbacks as lessons, and uncertainty as a space for growth transforms stress into fuel for improvement. This shift is not denial of reality, but an intentional reframing that strengthens resolve and encourages proactive decision-making. Over time, consistently applying perspective-oriented thinking solidifies a mindset that is adaptable, constructive, and unwavering in pursuit of goals. Habits of reflection and evaluation enhance mental strength. Taking time to assess actions, decisions, and outcomes cultivates self-awareness and insight. Reflection allows recognition of progress, identification of patterns, and formulation of improvements. This iterative process transforms experiences into lessons, mistakes into guides, and challenges into growth opportunities. By embedding reflection into daily practice, the mind learns to approach situations with analytical clarity rather than reactive impulsivity, reinforcing the capacity for strategic and resilient thinking. Building mental strength also involves embracing discomfort intentionally. Avoidance of challenge weakens adaptability and limits growth. By engaging with tasks that stretch ability, require patience, or provoke self-doubt, the mind develops endurance and flexibility. This practice mirrors resistance training for the brain. Each moment of conscious effort under pressure strengthens neural pathways, making subsequent challenges more manageable. Deliberate exposure to difficulty cultivates confidence, reduces fear, and builds the ability to navigate uncertainty with composure. Consistency in learning fosters a mindset capable of evolution. A strong mind is not rigid, but open to new information, capable of reassessment, and willing to adjust course when necessary. Daily learning, whether through reading, observation, skill practice, or dialogue, expands mental capacity and promotes cognitive flexibility. By making continuous learning a habit, the mind develops agility, problem-solving ability, and adaptability, all critical components of long-term resilience and leadership. Accountability reinforces mental discipline. Setting clear intentions, tracking progress, and reviewing outcomes create structures that prevent drift and maintain focus. Accountability can be personal, through journaling or self-assessment, or external through mentorship, collaboration, or community. The practice of regularly evaluating mental performance strengthens responsibility for one's thoughts, decisions, and actions, reinforcing consistency and commitment to deliberate practice. Visualization and mental rehearsal are practical tools for mindset strengthening. Imagining desired outcomes while mentally navigating potential obstacles prepares the mind for real-world challenges. This practice enhances focus, improves problem-solving, and conditions emotional responses, creating readiness and confidence when facing uncertainty. The repeated mental simulation of success, effort, and resilience trains the mind to respond effectively under pressure, reinforcing belief in capability and reinforcing persistence. Ultimately, a strong mindset is the result of repeated, purposeful action. It is cultivated in the small, daily decisions that reinforce discipline, focus, adaptability, and resilience. By committing to consistent mental practice, actively reframing thoughts, reflecting on outcomes, and embracing challenge, the mind evolves into a reliable ally capable of guiding action, sustaining motivation, and navigating complexity. Strengthening mindset is not a one-time effort. It is a lifelong exercise that compounds daily, producing clarity, confidence, and the capacity to respond effectively under any circumstance. Begin by selecting one daily practice designed to enhance mental resilience. Commit to it without exception. Observe your thoughts, identify unproductive patterns, and replace them with constructive alternatives. Reflect on progress each evening, noting insights, improvements, and areas for refinement. Gradually incorporate additional practices, building a layered system of mental conditioning. Over time, consistent application creates a mindset that is flexible, strong, and capable of supporting long-term personal and professional growth. A disciplined, consistently trained mind becomes a foundation for every success. It allows focus on what matters most, resilience under pressure, and clarity in decision-making. Every challenge encountered becomes an opportunity to practice mental strength. Every day spent in deliberate engagement with thought and action compounds into enduring capability. By committing to continuous, structured practice, the mind transforms into a tool of intentionality, empowerment, and sustained achievement, ensuring that obstacles become stepping stones, setbacks become lessons, and potential is fully realized. Number 6. Lead routines instead of impulses. Life is a constant stream of choices, and most people navigate it reactively. Decisions are often dictated by immediate desires, fleeting moods, or external pressures. While impulses can feel urgent, they rarely serve long-term goals or align with personal values. Routines, on the other hand, are deliberate structures that channel energy consistently toward meaningful outcomes. Leading your life through routines rather than impulses is the difference between drifting aimlessly and moving purposefully. It is a method of reclaiming control, creating stability, and shaping the trajectory of your life through intentional, repeated action. Routines are the framework within which discipline thrives. They are not rigid chains, but organized patterns that reduce the cognitive load required for daily decisions. Every choice we make consumes mental energy, and when energy is spent reacting to impulses, less remains for intentional action. By establishing routines, decisions about essential behaviors become automatic, freeing the mind to focus on growth, creativity, and strategic thinking. This is the advantage of routine. It creates an internal structure that guides behavior even when motivation is low or distractions abound. The foundation of leading with routines begins with awareness of current patterns. Observing how time is spent, which impulses dominate daily decisions, and where energy is wasted is critical. For many, mornings are chaotic, attention is scattered, and priorities are unclear. This lack of structure allows minor distractions to accumulate into lost opportunities. Mapping out daily habits and recognizing recurring reactive behaviors reveals the gaps where routines can replace impulses. Awareness is the prerequisite for intentional redesign of life's flow. Intentionality is key when designing routines. A routine without purpose is little more than a ritual. It must be aligned with goals, values, and desired outcomes. Every component of a routine should contribute to a larger vision of who you wish to become, whether it is dedicating time to focused work, structured exercise, reflective journaling, or consistent learning. Each habitual action strengthens the scaffolding of personal growth. Leading with routines ensures that energy is consistently invested where it produces the greatest long-term benefit, rather than dissipating on trivial impulses. Routines also provide resilience against emotional volatility. Impulses often arise from transient feelings, boredom, frustration, excitement, or fatigue. Left unchecked, these emotional triggers can derail focus and productivity. Established routines act as anchors, providing predictable behaviors regardless of fluctuating emotions. For instance, committing to a morning exercise routine or a dedicated work block ensures that progress continues even on days when motivation falters or mood swings occur. This consistency strengthens self-trust and reinforces the belief that meaningful results are achievable through disciplined repetition rather than sporadic effort. The process of creating effective routines requires both experimentation and adjustment. Not every habit fits seamlessly at first. Some may feel unnatural or inconvenient. Start small, introducing a few key routines that directly impact your goals. Observe how they influence energy, focus, and outcomes. Adjust timing, sequence, or duration as needed. Flexibility in design does not undermine discipline. It ensures that routines are sustainable and integrated into daily life. Over time, the most effective routines solidify, becoming automatic behaviors that require minimal conscious effort to execute. Anchoring routines to existing patterns enhances adoption, associating new behaviors with familiar triggers. Waking up, brushing teeth, meals, or commute leverages natural sequences to reinforce action. This reduces reliance on willpower, which is finite and easily depleted. The more seamlessly a routine integrates into existing patterns, the more likely it is to become a consistent, guiding force. Consistency over time transforms these anchored routines into reliable tools for maintaining focus and purpose in the face of distraction or fatigue. Leading with routines also requires disciplined attention to priorities. Impulses often tempt us toward what is urgent, but not important. Social media, notifications, or reactive commitments consume time without contributing to long-term objectives. A well-structured routine places critical activities first, ensuring that energy is directed toward high-value tasks. This prioritization strengthens momentum and allows important work to be completed before distractions can intervene. By creating routines that reflect true priorities, the mind becomes trained to act with intention, reducing susceptibility to the noise of fleeting impulses. Accountability reinforces routine adherence. Tracking actions, reviewing progress, and evaluating outcomes embed consistency and commitment. Accountability can be external, through a mentor, coach, or peer, or internal via journaling, digital tracking, or self-assessment. Monitoring routines allows recognition of patterns, identification of obstacles, and timely correction. This feedback loop strengthens reliability and ensures that routines remain aligned with evolving goals and circumstances. Leadership over oneself grows when consistency is measured, adjusted, and reinforced systematically. Routines also shape identity. Consistent actions communicate to yourself and others the kind of person you are. The person who consistently writes, exercises, plans, or studies daily becomes defined by these behaviors. Identity emerges not from sporadic achievements, but from repeated demonstration of values through structured actions. By choosing routines over impulses, you deliberately craft the habits that become inseparable from self-perception, creating a cycle where disciplined behaviors reinforce a strong, purpose-driven identity. Flexibility within routines is equally important. While structure is necessary, routines must accommodate variability and circumstances. Unexpected events, shifts in schedule, or disruptions can occur, and the ability to adapt without abandoning core routines strengthens resilience. This requires a mindset that differentiates between non-essential deviations and critical commitments. By maintaining core practices while allowing minor adjustments, routines continue to function as reliable guides, supporting long-term stability without creating rigidity or frustration. Routines also influence decision-making efficiency. By automating essential behaviors, mental energy is conserved for complex problems requiring critical thinking. Impulsive reactions often stem from cognitive overload or decision fatigue. When key behaviors are embedded in routines, fewer choices need to be deliberated, and the mind is free to focus on strategic thinking and high-level problem solving. This creates a compounding advantage. Structured routines produce consistent results while enhancing cognitive capacity for meaningful action. Embracing the long-term perspective strengthens commitment to routines. Immediate gratification often tempts people to abandon consistent habits for short-term pleasure. Leading routines over impulses requires delaying reward in favor of sustained growth. The cumulative impact of daily intentional actions surpasses sporadic efforts driven by whim. Each repeated choice in alignment with routine compounds into measurable progress, reinforcing the value of consistency and strengthening the belief that discipline produces tangible outcomes over time. A well-designed routine integrates reflection and review, periodically assessing effectiveness, alignment with goals, and personal satisfaction ensures that routines remain purposeful rather than mechanical. Reflection allows the elimination of redundant or unproductive behaviors, replacement with higher impact actions, and adaptation to evolving circumstances. This intentional refinement ensures that routines remain dynamic tools for growth, preventing stagnation while reinforcing leadership over choices rather than reaction to impulse. Leading routines instead of impulses transforms life from reactive chaos to intentional momentum. Daily decisions become predictable in their alignment with purpose, Energy is concentrated on meaningful work, and self-trust is strengthened through reliable action. The mind learns to act deliberately. Habits solidify identity, and outcomes begin to reflect long-term vision rather than short-term whims. Impulses no longer dominate. Choice becomes consistent, deliberate, and aligned with values and objectives. Begin today by identifying one key area of your life where impulses dictate action, whether productivity, health, relationships, or learning. Design a routine to replace reactive behaviors with deliberate, structured action. Anchor it to existing habits, monitor adherence, and refine it over time. Gradually expand routines across other domains, creating an integrated framework that guides behavior, reinforces discipline, and strengthens self-leadership. Over time, the mind, body, and daily choices align, producing momentum, stability, and outcomes that reflect intention rather than chance. Leading with routines over impulses is not a restriction. It is liberation. It creates a life where every action is a conscious choice, directed toward meaningful objectives. Structure provides freedom by reducing uncertainty, conserving energy, and fostering resilience. Through consistent, deliberate routines, you gain mastery over your daily behavior, your energy, and ultimately your destiny. Life transforms from a series of reactions into a continuous, intentional progression toward growth, success, and self-mastery. Number 7, create boundaries that protect focus. Focus is one of the most valuable resources in life, yet it is constantly under attack. Notifications, interruptions, obligations, and endless distractions compete for attention, fragmenting energy and reducing effectiveness. True productivity, creativity, and personal growth cannot flourish without the protection of well-defined boundaries. Boundaries are not barriers to opportunity. They are tools that safeguard time, energy, and mental clarity. They allow deliberate action to take precedence over reactive behavior, ensuring that attention is directed toward what truly matters. Learning to create boundaries that protect focus is a fundamental skill for anyone seeking self-leadership, sustained achievement, and meaningful influence. The first step in establishing effective boundaries is awareness of how attention is currently spent. Observe daily routines and identify moments when focus is disrupted or energy is scattered. Track time spent on non-essential tasks, identify habitual distractions, and note circumstances that provoke reactive behavior. Awareness is critical because you cannot protect something you do not understand. Recognizing patterns of attention depletion reveals the points where boundaries are needed most. Without this clarity, attempts to focus will be sporadic and ineffective, leaving effort wasted on temporary fixes rather than structural solutions. Boundaries are most effective when they are intentional. They must be designed to serve specific purposes, such as protecting creative work, maintaining mental energy, or preserving emotional stability. A boundary may take the form of physical separation, such as a dedicated workspace, or temporal limitation, like blocking off certain hours for deep work. It may also involve emotional or social boundaries, such as declining invitations or requests that drain energy unnecessarily. Each boundary should have a clear purpose, ensuring that its creation strengthens focus, rather than simply restricting freedom arbitrarily. Saying no is a central element of boundary creation. Many people allow attention and energy to be hijacked by obligations that are neither essential nor aligned with their goals. Learning to decline requests, interruptions, or distractions is not selfish. It is a disciplined act that prioritizes what truly matters. Saying no reinforces personal authority over time, cultivates respect from others, and creates the mental space necessary for concentration. The power of a no is not in rejection alone, but in the freedom it provides to invest attention in high-value pursuits. Physical boundaries are equally essential. A cluttered workspace, noisy environment, or constant interruptions from others undermines concentration. Designing a physical space that signals focus, organized, clean, and dedicated to specific tasks, reduces cognitive friction and allows attention to flow uninterrupted. Simple measures such as closing doors, wearing headphones, or using designated work areas signal to both the mind and others that focus is a priority. Physical boundaries communicate commitment, reduce distractions, and reinforce the mental state necessary for sustained productivity. Time boundaries provide another layer of protection. Allocating blocks of uninterrupted time for important work ensures that critical activities are completed without compromise. This may involve using techniques such as time blocking, setting timers, or scheduling tasks according to energy levels. Boundaries around time are particularly powerful because they prevent the encroachment of trivial obligations, reactive responses, and unnecessary multitasking. By controlling how time is spent, focus is safeguarded, progress is accelerated, and mental fatigue is minimized. Digital boundaries are increasingly critical in a world dominated by screens and notifications. Social media, messaging apps, and constant alerts fracture attention and erode deep work. Establishing rules for digital engagement, such as limiting notifications, scheduling email checks, or designating screen-free periods, protects focus and reduces cognitive clutter. Digital boundaries are proactive measures that prevent reactive scrolling, excessive multitasking, and distraction-driven decision-making. These limits allow the mind to operate in a state of sustained attention, fostering clarity, creativity, and meaningful output. Emotional boundaries support focus by protecting energy from unnecessary stress, conflict, and obligation. Emotional distractions from unresolved interpersonal issues to excessive worry can drain concentration and disrupt momentum. Setting boundaries in communication, expectations, and emotional labor ensures that attention is preserved for purposeful action rather than constant reaction. Emotional boundaries may involve limiting exposure to toxic influences, articulating limits with others, or controlling how much emotional energy is invested in external problems. Protecting mental and emotional resources is just as important as managing time and physical space. Boundaries require consistent enforcement. Creating rules is only effective if they are maintained over time. Inconsistency erodes trust with oneself, weakens the habit of focus, and allows distractions to reclaim authority. Discipline in upholding boundaries strengthens self-respect, reinforces priorities, and demonstrates commitment to long-term goals. This consistency trains the mind to respect limits, reduces internal conflict, and ensures that focused action becomes habitual rather than sporadic. Prioritization complements boundaries. Protecting focus is not just about eliminating distractions. It is also about identifying what deserves attention. Boundaries are most effective when they channel energy toward high-value tasks, aligned with goals, purpose, and values. Prioritization prevents attention from being wasted on trivial matters, ensuring that protected focus produces meaningful outcomes. By combining boundaries with deliberate prioritization, time and energy are allocated optimally, creating momentum and reinforcing the habit of intentional living. Flexibility within boundaries enhances sustainability. Boundaries are not meant to be rigid restrictions, but structured frameworks that can adapt to circumstances without being abandoned. Unexpected events, urgent obligations, or necessary interruptions will occur, and resilience lies in maintaining focus despite them. Flexibility requires discernment, knowing when to bend without compromising core priorities. Well-designed boundaries balance structure with adaptability, providing protection without creating rigidity, stress, or frustration. Reflection and evaluation strengthen boundary effectiveness. Regularly reviewing how attention is spent, which boundaries are functioning, and where adjustments are needed ensures continuous improvement. Reflection allows recognition of leaks in focus, identification of ineffective limits, and implementation of better strategies. This practice creates a feedback loop that reinforces intentional behavior, strengthens self-leadership, and ensures that boundaries evolve to match changing goals, responsibilities, and life circumstances. Boundaries also enhance decision-making. When attention is protected, the mind operates with clarity, free from fragmentation caused by interruptions and reactive impulses. Focused attention allows for deeper analysis, strategic thinking, and effective problem-solving. Boundaries create the mental environment in which the mind can operate at full capacity, making choices deliberate rather than reactionary, and ensuring that decisions align with long-term objectives. Establishing boundaries cultivates respect, both internally and externally. When others see that your time and focus are valued, they learn to respect limits, which reduces unnecessary interference and reinforces autonomy. Internally, maintaining boundaries fosters self-respect and confidence, signaling that personal goals and energy are worth safeguarding. This dual reinforcement strengthens the ability to act deliberately, focus consistently, and lead oneself with authority. Creating boundaries is not merely a tactical exercise. It is a form of self-leadership. It requires awareness, intentionality, discipline, and evaluation. Boundaries protect focus, conserve energy, enhance productivity, and reinforce personal values. By defining limits, prioritizing attention, and consistently enforcing rules, the mind becomes a disciplined instrument capable of sustained, high-impact action. Boundaries transform life from a series of distractions and reactive decisions into a deliberate progression toward meaning goals, personal growth, and self-mastery. Start today by identifying one domain where focus is most frequently disrupted. Implement a clear boundary, whether physical, temporal, digital, or emotional, to protect that area. Monitor adherence, adjust as needed, and expand boundaries across other areas gradually. Over time, these limits create an environment where attention is controlled, distractions are minimized, and energy is consistently invested in what truly matters. Boundaries become a scaffold for achievement, a shield for concentration, and a foundation for long-term success. Leading with boundaries ensures that focus is preserved, progress is consistent, and personal energy is allocated intentionally. Life becomes governed by choice rather than distraction, by clarity rather than chaos. The creation and maintenance of protective boundaries is an ongoing practice that shapes identity, reinforces discipline, and cultivates the capacity to act with precision, purpose, and self-directed power. Number 8. Take responsibility for personal growth. Growth is not something that happens by chance. It is the result of conscious choice and persistent effort. Every person is responsible for the trajectory of their own development. Waiting for opportunities, external validation, or circumstances to dictate improvement is a passive approach that rarely produces meaningful results. Personal growth is a commitment, a daily deliberate practice of cultivating knowledge, skills, resilience, and self-awareness. Taking responsibility for it means acknowledging that progress depends on your decisions, effort, and willingness to face discomfort, rather than relying on external conditions or other people to propel change. The foundation of personal growth is self-awareness. To take responsibility, you must first understand your strengths, weaknesses, habits, and patterns. Honest reflection reveals areas requiring improvement and highlights the skills and qualities that deserve focus. Self-awareness also exposes limiting beliefs and unproductive behaviors that hinder development. By confronting these aspects without defensiveness, a clear path toward growth emerges. Responsibility begins with the acknowledgement that your current state is a result of choices you have made, and the power to shape the next chapter resides entirely within you. Accountability is essential to growth. External circumstances and external motivation are often unreliable, making internal accountability critical. Set clear goals and create a system to monitor progress. This may involve journaling, self-assessment, or sharing intentions with a mentor or accountability partner. The act of measuring advancement transforms vague ambition into tangible results. Responsibility is not only about setting goals, but ensuring consistent follow-through, evaluating outcomes, and adjusting strategies when necessary. Growth is a feedback-driven process, requiring active engagement rather than passive hope. Personal growth thrives on deliberate practice. Learning and development are not occasional events. They are daily commitments. Consistent effort in refining skills, acquiring knowledge, and improving habits compounds over time. This requires structure, persistence, and the willingness to work even when progress is slow or imperceptible. It is in repetition and consistency that true transformation occurs. Small, incremental improvements, repeated over time, produce significant long-term change. Taking responsibility means showing up daily, even when motivation is low, and trusting the cumulative power of sustained effort. Embracing discomfort is central to responsible growth. Transformation rarely occurs within comfort zones. Facing challenges, making difficult decisions, and confronting fear are unavoidable aspects of progress. Growth requires a willingness to endure temporary discomfort in pursuit of long-term gain. Avoidance, procrastination, or reliance on ease inhibits development. Taking responsibility for personal growth means intentionally seeking situations that stretch capacity, deepen resilience, and expand capability. These experiences, though uncomfortable, forge stronger, more capable individuals. Learning to take ownership of failures is equally important. Mistakes, setbacks, and disappointments are inevitable, yet they become powerful catalysts for growth when approached responsibly. Instead of blaming circumstances or external actors, analyze what went wrong, extract lessons, and apply insights to future actions. This approach transforms failure into a tool rather than a deterrent. Responsibility entails acknowledging missteps, learning from them, and refusing to allow external factors to dictate self-worth or potential. The ability to grow hinges on the willingness to accept accountability for outcomes. Intentionality guides responsible development. Growth is not about random efforts or sporadic bursts of activity. It is about focusing on areas that will yield meaningful impact. Identify the skills, knowledge, and habits that align with your long-term goals and dedicate deliberate time to cultivating them. Structured routines, prioritized learning, and mindful practice ensure that effort translates into progress rather than wasted energy. Responsibility in personal growth is about directing attention and resources strategically toward high-leverage actions. Curiosity fuels expansion. Individuals who take ownership of their development actively seek knowledge and experiences that challenge perspectives, broaden understanding, and increase capability. Growth requires an openness to new ideas, willingness to explore unfamiliar territory, and readiness to question assumptions. By adopting a mindset of continuous curiosity, learning becomes self-directed and intentional, rather than reactive or passive. Responsibility entails pursuing understanding and development proactively, rather than waiting for guidance or instruction from external sources. Discipline underpins sustained growth. Desire alone is insufficient. Consistent action must reinforce intent. Habits of study, reflection, practice, and self-assessment create the scaffolding for development. Discipline ensures that personal growth continues even when motivation fluctuates, energy wanes, or obstacles arise. Taking responsibility means committing to disciplined routines that support learning, skill building, and habit formation. Over time, this commitment compounds, creating a foundation of capability and resilience that sustains progress across all areas of life. Mentorship and feedback accelerate responsible growth. Seeking guidance from those with experience, insight, or expertise provides perspective, reduces trial and error inefficiency, and exposes blind spots. Constructive feedback, when received openly, becomes a mirror reflecting areas requiring attention. Taking responsibility includes the humility to seek counsel, listen objectively, and integrate insights into actionable improvement plans. Growth is maximized when self-directed effort is complemented by the wisdom of others, creating a balanced approach that combines initiative with informed guidance. Boundaries also support growth. Protecting time, energy, and focus from distractions or external demands ensures that personal development is prioritized. Without clear limits, attention is siphoned away by trivial or reactive tasks, leaving little capacity for intentional improvement. Responsibility involves defining what matters most, saying no to non-essential obligations, and safeguarding environments that nurture learning, reflection, and focused effort. Boundaries create the conditions in which growth can flourish consistently. Self-reflection solidifies responsibility and personal growth. Regular evaluation of progress, behavior, and mindset enables course correction, reinforcement of effective practices, and identification of new areas for improvement. Reflection transforms experience into actionable insight, converting repetition into mastery. Taking responsibility requires ongoing assessment of not only outcomes but also the methods and approaches used to achieve them. Through reflection, patterns emerge, adjustments are made, and personal development becomes a guided, evolving process. A commitment to responsibility includes embracing long-term thinking. Personal growth is cumulative, often invisible in the short term, yet profound over months and years. Immediate gratification or avoidance of challenge may feel easier, but true development requires patience, persistence, and foresight. Each deliberate action contributes incrementally to skills, resilience, knowledge, and character. Taking responsibility means valuing long-term payoff over temporary comfort, trusting that disciplined, continuous effort shapes a meaningful and capable future self. Mindset plays a central role in growth responsibility. Believing that development is within personal control fosters agency, initiative, and self-efficacy. Viewing life through a lens of ownership rather than blame empowers decisive action, sustained effort, and constructive responses to setbacks. Responsibility for growth begins in the mind, with the unwavering understanding that outcomes are largely determined by choices, commitment, and execution. A proactive mindset creates momentum and resilience that carries forward even under adversity. Finally, taking responsibility for personal growth requires embracing the entirety of oneself, strengths, weaknesses, habits, beliefs, and tendencies. Authentic growth is holistic. It engages the mind, body, skills, character, and relationships. Neglecting one aspect limits potential. Responsibility demands comprehensive attention, refining capabilities, cultivating discipline, deepening self-awareness, and actively choosing experiences that expand competence and understanding. Growth is not selective. It is an intentional, integrated process driven by ownership and deliberate action. Start today by identifying one area of personal development where improvement is necessary. Set clear, measurable goals, define actionable steps, and commit to executing them consistently. Reflect on progress, seek feedback, and adjust strategies as needed. Expand focus gradually, building layered growth across multiple domains. Over time, taking ownership transforms not only skills and knowledge, but also mindset, confidence, resilience, and character. Responsibility becomes a habit, growth becomes self-directed, and personal evolution becomes inevitable. Taking responsibility for personal growth is a declaration of agency. It signals a refusal to drift, to wait, or to blame circumstances. It places control squarely in one's own hands and transforms effort into progress, challenges into lessons, and ambition into realized capability. Life responds to deliberate action. Growth is the product of consistent, intentional ownership. Those who embrace responsibility become architects of their future, creators of their potential, and leaders of their own evolution. Number 9, align goals with inner purpose. Every goal set without a foundation in personal purpose risks becoming empty, fleeting, or misdirected. Achievements can be impressive externally but hollow internally when they do not resonate with who you are or what you genuinely value. True fulfillment and lasting success are not measured solely by milestones or recognition, but by the degree to which your actions harmonize with your deepest convictions. Aligning goals with inner purpose ensures that every effort is meaningful, every decision contributes to authentic growth, and every accomplishment reflects not only external results, but personal integrity. The first step in this alignment is clarity about what your inner purpose actually is. Purpose is not a catchy statement or abstract ideal. It is the guiding principle that informs choices, motivates effort, and sustains resilience. Understanding purpose requires deep introspection, asking questions about what drives you, what brings fulfillment, and what impact you wish to create in the world. It is revealed through reflection on past experiences where energy, passion, and commitment naturally converge. Purpose becomes the compass that ensures every goal, strategy, and action is directed towards something inherently significant. Without clarity of purpose, goals can become shallow exercises in productivity or status. Many pursue achievements that look impressive externally, but fail to resonate internally. Aligning with purpose transforms goals into expressions of identity. Each objective is no longer simply a task to complete, but a reflection of values, passions, and the person you aspire to become. This alignment creates energy and motivation that outlasts fleeting enthusiasm, because the pursuit is grounded in meaning rather than obligation or external expectation. Purpose-driven goals provide direction in times of uncertainty. Life is unpredictable, and challenges frequently disrupt plans. When goals are tied to a clear purpose, decisions are guided by a deeper reference point rather than transient emotions or external pressure. This internal compass allows you to navigate ambiguity, maintain focus, and remain resilient when obstacles arise. Purpose acts as the anchor, ensuring that actions are coherent, consistent, and moving toward enduring objectives, rather than reactive outcomes. Alignment requires intentional evaluation of existing goals. Many people operate under inherited expectations, societal pressures, or reactive ambitions, without considering whether these objectives truly resonate with their inner purpose. Taking responsibility for alignment involves scrutinizing each goal. Why does this matter? What does it contribute to my deeper mission? If a goal does not reinforce core purpose, it may require modification or abandonment. Eliminating misaligned pursuits frees energy for endeavors that carry genuine significance. Integrating values into goal setting strengthens alignment. Purpose is inseparable from personal values, which define how success should be pursued. Goals grounded in ethical, moral, or personal principles ensure that the methods used to achieve them honor integrity and character. This alignment produces not only outcomes, but the satisfaction of knowing they were attained in a manner consistent with personal identity. Values act as a filter, guiding choices and preventing shortcuts that compromise purpose. Breaking down goals into actionable steps is essential. Purpose provides vision, but vision must translate into tangible action to produce results. Create objectives that are specific, measurable, and intentionally connected to your broader purpose. Each step should reinforce the larger mission, cultivating momentum, confidence, and clarity. When micro-actions reflect overarching purpose, even small progress reinforces motivation, strengthens commitment, and builds consistency, transforming abstract vision into lived reality. Resilience is amplified when goals are purpose-aligned. Pursuing objectives in harmony with inner purpose generates intrinsic motivation, sustaining effort during challenges. External rewards may fade, circumstances may change, and difficulties may arise, but a clear sense of purpose maintains momentum. The energy derived from meaningful alignment outweighs temporary setbacks, enabling perseverance, creativity, and strategic adaptation. Purpose-aligned goals become not only achievable, but compelling because they resonate with the essence of who you are. Reflection reinforces alignment. Periodically reviewing goals in the context of purpose ensures they remain relevant and resonant. Life evolves, priorities shift, and personal growth may reveal new insights. By evaluating goals against inner purpose regularly, you can adjust, refine, or expand them to maintain coherence with evolving identity and vision. Reflection prevents drift, promotes intentionality, and ensures that effort is consistently invested in directions that matter most. Alignment also enhances decision-making. When goals are grounded in purpose, choices, both large and small, become easier because they are filtered through a consistent reference point. Options that support purpose are pursued, while distractions and superficial pursuits are recognized and set aside. This clarity reduces indecision, prevents wasted energy, and amplifies effective. Purpose acts as a lens, simplifying complexity and ensuring that every action contributes meaningfully to long-term objectives. Purpose-aligned goals cultivate fulfillment beyond outcomes. Success measured only by results can leave a void if the journey lacks resonance. When objectives harmonize with values and purpose, achievement carries intrinsic satisfaction. Progress becomes rewarding in itself, and each accomplishment reinforces identity, growth, and contribution. This alignment bridges the gap between external recognition and internal satisfaction, creating a sense of coherence, meaning, and motivation that extends far beyond individual achievements. Accountability strengthens alignment. Sharing goals with mentors, peers, or trusted advisors reinforces commitment, provides perspective, and enhances consistency. External accountability complements internal purpose by creating a system of feedback, support, and challenge. It helps identify misalignment, ensures follow-through, and encourages reflection on whether progress reflects both action and intention. Purpose-driven accountability integrates structure with meaning, amplifying effectiveness and sustaining momentum. Adaptability ensures that purpose-driven goals remain relevant. Life circumstances, opportunities, and personal growth evolve continuously. Goals must adapt without losing their core alignment with purpose. Flexibility is not compromise. It is strategic recalibration that maintains resonance while accommodating change. By adjusting methods, timelines, or intermediate objectives, purpose-aligned goals stay achievable, relevant, and inspiring, sustaining motivation while honoring overarching intent. Energy management is enhanced by alignment. Pursuing goals consistent with purpose reduces resistance and friction. Effort feels more natural, engagement is deeper, and focus is sustained longer. Conversely, goals disconnected from inner purpose often create exhaustion, frustration, and distraction. Aligning objectives ensures that energy investment produces maximum return, not only in tangible results, but in the sense of progress, satisfaction, and personal growth. Visualization and emotional connection reinforce purpose alignment. Imagining desired outcomes while feeling their significance strengthens commitment and clarity. Connecting goals to emotional resonance creates intrinsic motivation that persists beyond fleeting enthusiasm. This technique makes goals tangible and meaningful, embedding them within personal identity rather than treating them as abstract targets. Emotional alignment reinforces focus, persistence, and intentional action. Ultimately, aligning goals with inner purpose transforms ambition into fulfillment. Effort becomes meaningful, challenges become opportunities for growth, and achievements reflect both external success and internal authenticity. Purpose-driven goals create a trajectory that is coherent, resilient, and deeply satisfying, guiding action toward outcomes that matter and cultivating a life of intentionality, contribution, and impact. Begin today by identifying a key goal and evaluating its connection to your deeper purpose. Ask whether the effort, methods, and outcomes align with your values, identity, and long-term vision. Adjust, refine, or recommit as necessary, ensuring that every step toward achievement resonates internally. Over time, alignment between goals and purpose strengthens motivation, amplifies results, and fosters a life where success is not measured solely by accomplishment, but by the integrity, meaning, and coherence of the journey. Aligning goals with inner purpose is not an occasional exercise. It is a continual practice. Each decision, each step, and each evaluation reinforces the connection between what you do and why you exist. This alignment transforms goals from mere tasks into expressions of identity, catalysts for growth, and pathways to fulfillment. When goals reflect inner purpose, success follows naturally, and life becomes an intentional journey rather than a series of disconnected efforts. Number 10. Elevate self first to influence others. True influence begins not with persuasion, strategy, or external validation, but with mastery of self. The ability to guide, inspire, and impact others flows directly from the depth of your own character, clarity, and personal development. Elevating oneself first is a deliberate practice of self-mastery, discipline, and integrity, recognizing that influence is an outward reflection of internal stability. Without a strong foundation of self-awareness, focus, and growth, attempts to affect others are often inconsistent, ineffective, or shallow. The people who inspire respect, loyalty, and admiration are not those who merely give advice, but those who demonstrate competence, clarity, and strength in their own lives. The journey begins with self-awareness. Understanding strengths, weaknesses, values, and motivations forms the cornerstone of influence. Awareness allows you to operate from a place of authenticity rather than pretense. When interactions are grounded in clarity about who you are and what you stand for, others sense integrity and reliability. Elevating self first means taking responsibility for emotional regulation, decision-making, and behavioral consistency. By cultivating awareness of how you think, act, and respond under pressure, you create a stable platform from which influence naturally extends. Self-discipline reinforces credibility. The capacity to govern impulses, maintain focus, and follow through on commitments demonstrates reliability. People instinctively gravitate toward those whose actions reflect intentionality and consistency. Discipline in personal routines, habits, and decision-making builds internal authority. Before attempting to guide others, one must demonstrate the ability to lead oneself. Consistency in behavior, adherence to personal standards, and resilience under challenge cultivate trust, which is the foundation of authentic influence. Investing in personal growth strengthens the ability to affect others meaningfully. Knowledge, skills, and emotional intelligence are tools that amplify impact. Elevating oneself first requires continuous development, expanding understanding, refining communication, enhancing problem-solving, and cultivating empathy. Growth is not selfish. It equips you to serve others more effectively. A person who invests in their own capabilities becomes a resource, example, and guide for those around them. Influence becomes a natural byproduct of competence and self-improvement. Emotional regulation is central to leading self first. The capacity to manage reactions, maintain composure, and respond thoughtfully under pressure inspires confidence in others. Emotional volatility undermines credibility and reduces the capacity to guide or inspire. By cultivating calmness, patience, and strategic response, you establish a presence that others instinctively trust and respect. This emotional stability is not innate. It is strengthened through reflection, mindfulness, and consistent practice. The ability to remain steady, even amidst chaos, magnifies the effect of your influence. Boundaries are critical for sustaining self-elevation. Protecting time, energy, and focus ensures that personal development is prioritized. Without boundaries, attention is scattered, and the foundation for influence weakens. Boundaries do not isolate, but create space for reflection, growth, and alignment with values. By managing commitments intentionally and resisting the pull of trivial demands, you maintain the mental clarity and energy necessary to impact others effectively. A person who demonstrates respect for their own limits models respect for priorities and purposeful living. Authenticity is non-negotiable. Influence derived from imitation, pretense, or manipulation is temporary and brittle. Elevating oneself first means embracing genuine identity, strengths, and convictions. Authenticity fosters trust and connection, allowing others to feel inspired and understood. When people perceive alignment between words, actions, and values, influence is natural and sustainable. Self-first elevation is inseparable from integrity. The authority gained is rooted in consistency between inner character and outward expression. Purpose alignment amplifies influence. Individuals guided by clear purpose project direction and intentionality that others naturally respond to. Elevating oneself first involves clarifying personal mission and ensuring that actions, priorities, and behaviors are consistent with long-term vision. Purpose-driven influence transcends superficial tactics because it is anchored in meaningful outcomes rather than transient advantage. People follow those who are committed, principled, and aligned with a clear vision that inspires confidence. Self-care enhances capacity to influence. Mental, emotional, and physical well-being are essential for sustained impact. Neglecting personal health reduces energy, focus, and resilience, diminishing effectiveness. Elevating self first involves deliberate attention to rest, nutrition, reflection, and movement. A person who maintains vitality and balance can contribute consistently, think strategically, and respond effectively under pressure. This visible well-being inspires others, demonstrating that prioritizing self is not selfish, but a prerequisite for meaningful contribution. Reflection and feedback accelerate self-elevation. Regular assessment of decisions, behavior, and outcomes ensures alignment with values and goals. Seeking feedback from trusted sources exposes blind spots, enhances perspective, and strengthens judgment. Elevating oneself first is an iterative process. Learn, adapt, refine, and grow. The ability to internalize lessons and adjust proactively signals competence and maturity, which naturally attracts respect and influence. Growth must be intentional and ongoing for influence to deepen and endure. Leading by example is the clearest manifestation of elevated self-influence. People respond more to demonstrated behavior than to words alone. When actions embody discipline, integrity, and purpose, Influence becomes inherent rather than imposed. Self-elevation creates a standard, a living example that inspires emulation. By mastering oneself, you set a reference point that encourages others to align behaviors with higher standards. Influence becomes contagious when grounded in visible excellence rather than rhetoric. Communication is strengthened through self-mastery. The ability to articulate ideas clearly, listen actively, and respond thoughtfully is enhanced when grounded in personal discipline, reflection, and clarity. Elevated self-awareness improves empathy and the capacity to tailor interactions effectively. Influence is not simply about speaking, but about connecting, understanding, and guiding through example, and mastering internal clarity allows external expression to resonate with authenticity and precision. Influence multiplies when collaboration aligns with elevated self-practice. By maintaining high standards internally, interactions with others foster respect, cooperation, and alignment toward shared goals. Elevation does not require domination. It requires readiness to contribute, guide, and support effectively. When self-leadership is evident, collaboration becomes more productive because others instinctively trust judgment, appreciate consistency, and are motivated by example. Elevation first enables influence second, creating a virtuous cycle of growth and impact. Patience reinforces sustainable influence. Elevating oneself first is a long-term investment that cannot be rushed. Immediate results are rare. Influence accrues as competence, integrity, and presence solidify over time. Demonstrating patience, persistence, and measured action communicates reliability and inspires confidence. Those who rush or force influence without cultivating personal mastery often achieve superficial results that fade. True authority emerges from steady, intentional self-leadership. Vision integration ensures impact is meaningful. Influence is most powerful when connected to a broader context or mission. Elevating oneself first clarifies personal contribution, guiding energy toward outcomes that matter. Influence derived from self-mastery is intentional and constructive, not reactive or performative. People respond to leaders whose vision is coherent, grounded, and consistently demonstrated in action. Self-elevation creates alignment between internal capacity and external contribution, magnifying the reach and depth of impact. Ultimately, elevating self first transforms the way influence is exercised. It shifts the foundation from external tactics to internal competence, from reaction to intentionality, and from fleeting persuasion to lasting respect. Influence is a natural reflection of integrity, discipline, purpose, and consistent personal growth. By leading oneself first through self-awareness, discipline, boundaries, reflection, and continuous development, you create a presence that commands attention, inspires confidence, and guides others toward meaningful action. Influence emerges effortlessly when the self is strong, aligned, and intentional. Begin today by identifying one area of personal mastery: discipline, emotional regulation, skill, or purpose alignment. Dedicate time and effort to elevate yourself in that domain. Observe how growth in this area naturally extends influence into interactions, decisions, and leadership. Gradually expand focus across multiple areas of self-elevation, creating a foundation from which influence flows organically, sustainably, and meaningfully. Influence is not something to be demanded. It is earned through deliberate self-leadership, integrity, and the consistent demonstration of elevated character. Elevating self first ensures that influence is enduring, authentic, and impactful. It empowers others not through coercion, but through example, insight, and demonstrated competence. Life becomes a reflection of intentional growth, and leadership emerges as a natural extension of personal mastery. By prioritizing self-elevation, influence transforms from a transactional skill into a manifestation of who you are, guiding action, inspiring change, and leaving lasting impact wherever applied.